The training hangar on Outpost Helios 9 was a cathedral of steel and echo. Every sound, bootsteps, the hum of containment shields, the clatter of weapon drills reverberated through the cold air like thunder in a tomb. Rows of cadets stood rigid under the white glare of sodium lights. Half of them were human. The rest were from worlds that didn't breathe oxygen without filters. The Interspecies Defense Corps called this integration training. The cadets called it the cage. At the far end of the hangar stood General Korvac then, a veteran of the Zarth Dominion, standing almost 8 feet tall, his armor a lattice of dark chrome and pulsing amber veins. He looked more machine than flesh, a predator wrapped in ceremonial plating. His breathing apparatus hissed with every exhale, a sound that made human recruits instinctively flinch. Behind him, a massive banner displayed the two-world insignia, a stylized Earth alongside the Dominion sigil. Unity, on paper. Contempt, in the air. Cadet Daniel Reese held his stance, rifle at shoulder height, the polymer stock pressed against his cheek. He was 24, fresh from West Point's orbital branch, his posture textbook perfect. His eyes tracked the holographic target, a simulated insurgent flickering in and out of visibility. Fire, came Korvac's voice. Deep. Resonant. The kind of voice that carried command across battlefields. Reese squeezed the trigger. The plasma bolt went wide by a fraction. Miss, hissed Korvac. The alien's pupils contracted to slits. A human's idea of precision. Reese said nothing. He reset his stance. His breathing slowed. Again, the general ordered. This time the bolt hit dead center, dissolving the target's chest in a bloom of white-blue light. Korvac's head tilted slightly. Fluke, he said. Reese's jaw tightened. No, sir. The alien's eyes flared. What did you say, Cadet? I said, no fluke, sir. Just correction. A hush spread down the line. The alien recruits stopped moving. Every human pair of eyes fixed on Reese, the kid who didn't know when to shut up. Somewhere near the command dais, Captain Laura Briggs closed her eyes and muttered a curse. She'd warned him about pride. Korvac took a slow step forward. The deck groaned under the weight of his armor. Step forward, Cadet Reese. Reese obeyed, his heart pounding hard enough to feel in his throat. He stopped 2 feet away from the alien general. The smell of ion oil and burnt ozone rolled off Korvac's armor. You think yourself bold, Korvac said softly. Your species confuses defiance with strength. I think respect goes both ways, sir, Reese replied, quieter now, but steady. And I earned mine. The alien's hand moved before anyone saw it coming. A metallic crack shattered the silence. Reese staggered sideways, stars flashing in his vision. His cheek burned with the force of the slap. Blood traced the corner of his mouth. The humans didn't move. Not a word. Not a breath. On the Dominion side, a few low growls rose, amusement, approval, dominance affirmed. Korvac turned slightly, as if addressing them. This is how discipline begins, he said. With understanding of rank. 3 seconds passed. Something deep inside Daniel Reese snapped, not in rage, but in clarity. He didn't feel his hand move. His body did it for him. He ripped the plasma pistol from his thigh holster, thumbed off the safety, and pressed it against the seam of Korvac's neck joint, where the armor met exposed flesh. The hangar froze. The only sound was the hum of the pistol's capacitor charging. Reese's voice came out low and calm. Touch me again, and I'll burn through your spinal cord. The alien's eyes widened, not in fear at first, but disbelief. Then he felt it, the pulse of the weapon against a nerve cluster the size of a coin. One wrong twitch and the bolt would turn his central nervous system into molten glass. Stand down. Captain Briggs shouted, boots pounding on the deck. Cadet Reese, holster that weapon. Reese didn't blink. His finger hovered on the trigger pad. Korvac's breathing grew shallow. The hiss of his respirator faltered. He raised both clawed hands slowly. Lower your weapon, human, he growled, but the growl lacked authority now. It trembled on the edge of uncertainty. "You are making." "Beg," Reese interrupted. The word cut like ice. "You humiliated me in front of the Corps. You wanted to show power. Now show me submission." Gasps rippled down the ranks. Even the Dominion soldiers stared, their crests flickering with shock. "Cadet!" Briggs barked again. "You're 1 second from a court-martial." But Reese didn't move. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Say it, General." "Beg." For the first time, the great Korvac then hesitated. His throat worked around words that refused to form. His kind didn't beg. Not even in defeat. But his sensors were reading the pistol's power core at full charge. One twitch. One burn. Oblivion. Finally, he lowered his gaze. His voice came out ragged, stripped of arrogance. "Do not shoot." "Say it," Reese insisted, the barrel pressed harder. "Say the words." "I beg you," Korvac rasped. "Do not shoot." Silence. Briggs exhaled shakily. "That's enough, Reese. Put it down." Reese blinked, reality snapping back into focus. He stepped back, holstering the weapon. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the surge wearing off. The hangar seemed to tilt around him. He could hear whispers. The alien soldiers were staring at their general, the unthinkable had happened. Korvac straightened, the shame unmistakable even through his exosuit. "Cadet Reese," he said softly, "you have made a grave mistake." Reese looked him dead in the eye. "So did you." Briggs grabbed his shoulder and shoved him toward the exit. "Barracks. Now." As Reese walked away, the echo of the slap still hung in the air, but it wasn't the sound that everyone remembered. It was the sight of a human cadet making an alien general beg. Outside, under the cold blue glow of Helios 9's artificial sky, Reese stood alone for a long time, the weight of what he'd done settling like lead. He knew the Corps wouldn't forgive him. But he also knew something had shifted. The hierarchy had cracked. The myth of Dominion invincibility had taken a hit delivered by a single human hand. Far above the outpost, orbiting satellites watched, recording everything. And somewhere in Dominion Command, a message was already being written, one that would change the balance of power between species forever. They locked Cadet Daniel Reese in Holding Base 6, a rectangular cell of transparent alloy walls and recycled air that smelled faintly of burnt copper. The lights never dimmed here. They burned 24 hours straight, designed to keep detainees disoriented and compliant. He sat on the narrow cot, elbows on his knees, replaying those 3 seconds, the moment between the slap and his reaction, over and over. He didn't regret it. He just couldn't decide whether he'd just ruined his life or saved his species' pride. Outside, a pair of Dominion guards stood silent, their armor gleaming black like obsidian statues. Their slitted eyes never blinked. He wondered if they hated him or secretly respected him. The door hissed open. Captain Laura Briggs stepped in. Her uniform jacket was unbuttoned at the collar, the faintest trace of exhaustion on her face. In her left hand, she carried a data slate. Her right hand held a thermos. She set it down beside him. "Coffee. Real beans. You won't get any in the brig." Reese looked up. "Am I officially in the brig yet?" "Depends," Briggs said, sitting opposite him. "The tribunal's in 4 hours. The Dominion's demanding immediate disciplinary action. They want me executed, don't they?" Briggs didn't answer right away. She sipped her coffee instead, watching him over the rim of the cup. Finally, she said, "They want you transferred to their custody." "Which is worse?" Reese leaned back, exhaling. "Figures. Humiliate their general, and they'll want blood." She studied him quietly. "Why'd you do it, Daniel?" He hesitated. "Because he hit me. That's not enough. Not in this war. You know that." Reese met her gaze. "He hit every human in that room when he did it. I just made sure one hit back." Briggs nodded slowly, as if she'd expected that answer. You're a damn fool. But I'll be honest, a lot of humans out there are cheering your name right now. He frowned. Cheering? The vid's gone viral. Someone leaked the hangar feed. Every military channel on Earth and Mars is replaying it. They're calling you the cadet who made an alien kneel. Reese stared at the wall, disbelief and dread colliding in his chest. That's not good. No, Briggs said flatly. It's not. A soft hum preceded the next arrival. The cell door slid open again, revealing a shadow far larger than a human frame. General Korvac then stepped inside. 2 Dominion guards followed, then sealed the door behind him. The alien's armor gleamed darker than before, repainted or repaired, but Reese noticed the faint scorch mark along the collar where his pistol had pressed against the skin. Briggs stood. General, this is irregular. You're not. Leave us, Korvac said, his voice a low thunder. This conversation is between warrior and warrior. Briggs hesitated, glanced at Reese, then nodded. 5 minutes. She left, the door sliding shut behind her. The silence that followed was thick as oil. Korvac approached until the light glinted across his metallic mandibles. His breathing mask exhaled steam that clouded the space between them. You dishonored me, the alien said. You hit a subordinate, Reese replied evenly. You dishonored yourself. Korvac's jaw twitched. You misunderstand your situation, human. The Dominion does not forgive humiliation. I could crush your skull before your next breath. Reese stood. Then why haven't you? The alien's eyes narrowed. He seemed to wrestle with something, pride, fury, maybe even confusion. Because, his voice dropped lower. Because I saw something I have not seen in humans before. Reese blinked. What's that? Stupidity? Courage. The word came out like a growl, reluctant, almost painful to speak. Your kind hides behind machines and orders. You acted from instinct. Reckless, yes. But not cowardly. Reese didn't move. You came here to tell me that? No, Korvac said, stepping closer. I came to tell you the tribunal is a show. They will find you guilty, they must. It is the only way to restore political balance. But your punishment will not be death. That's comforting. You will be sent to Outpost Erebus, Korvac continued. A frontier garrison near the Rift Zone. You will serve there under my command. Reese stared at him. You're assigning me back to you? Korvac's mandibles flexed, a Dominion equivalent of a grim smile. You proved yourself worthy of discipline through conflict. That is our way. You will learn it. I'd rather take the court-martial. That is not your choice. The alien turned toward the door, but paused halfway. 3 seconds, human. That was all it took to make me beg. I will not forget it. Nor will I forgive it. When he left, the cell felt smaller than before. For hours later, in the tribunal hall, the sentence was delivered exactly as Korvac had said. Cadet Daniel Reese, intoned the presiding officer, for insubordination, assault on a superior officer, and violation of interspecies conduct protocols, you are hereby reassigned to Outpost Erebus, effective immediately. You will serve under Dominion command for a minimum of 1 solar year. The hammer fell. The crowd, half human, half Dominion, erupted in murmurs. Briggs caught up with him afterward in the corridor. You could have walked away clean, Daniel. But you're going to the edge of known space instead. Reese shrugged. Guess that's where I belong now. She reached into her pocket and pressed a small object into his hand, his service patch, stripped from his uniform. Keep it. They can take your rank, but not who you are. He nodded, pocketed it, and walked toward the docking bay. The transport shuttle to Erebus was old, Dominion design, retrofitted for human passengers. The corridors pulsed with amber light, walls alive with strange alien circuitry that seemed to breathe. Reese sat alone in the back, his duffel at his feet, the hum of the engines vibrating through his bones. Halfway through the flight, the onboard holocom flickered. Korvac's face appeared in a blue shimmer. We arrive in 6 hours. When we land, you will report directly to me. Reese met the hologram's eyes. Yes, sir. Good, Korvac said. Because Erebus is not a training station. It is a war zone. The transmission cut. Reese stared out the viewport. The stars outside stretched into blue streaks as the ship jumped to FTL. Somewhere in the void ahead, the frontier awaited, the place they sent soldiers who didn't fit, who disobeyed, who broke the illusion of order. And yet, deep inside, Daniel Reese felt something like peace. He didn't know why. Maybe because for the first time, he wasn't following orders blindly. He was walking into his own story. Outside, distant lightning flashed across the planet Erebus, a storm world circling a dying star. The glow lit his reflection against the glass, a human face marked by defiance, framed against the endless dark. Whatever waited there, Dominion cruelty, alien politics, or war itself, he would meet it standing tall. The sky over Erebus never turned blue. It was a furnace of ash and lightning, a world scorched by constant electrical storms and endless night. When the transport descended through the clouds, Cadet Daniel Reese thought the entire planet was on fire. Outpost Erebus sat inside a natural crater, surrounded by ridges of black volcanic rock. The base wasn't human or Dominion, it was both. Human prefab barracks welded onto alien fortress towers. The air stank of ozone, oil, and the faint bitterness of burnt silica. It wasn't home to anyone. It was where soldiers went to be forgotten. The shuttle's ramp hissed open. General Korvac then stood waiting, flanked by Dominion troopers whose armor flickered in the lightning. The moment Reese stepped down, the wind slapped against him, hot and acidic. Cadet Reese, Korvac said, voice booming above the storm. Welcome to Erebus, where rank and pride burn together. Reese saluted. Reporting for duty, sir. The alien's gaze lingered, unreadable. Then he turned and walked toward the central compound. Follow. Life on Erebus was raw and short. The outpost existed to monitor the rift zone, a chasm that split the planet's crust open for hundreds of miles. Deep inside that abyss, the Dominion had discovered something ancient to structures buried in molten rock, pulsing with energy older than either species. Every few days, anomalies rose from the rift, creatures or machines, no one was sure. They struck without warning, shredding patrols and leaving nothing but carbonized bones behind. Command called them the Woken. Reese was assigned to Recon Unit 7, a mixed human-Dominion team tasked with scouting the perimeter. The first week was silence and suspicion. His squad mates ignored him. His alien counterparts avoided eye contact. His human peers whispered that he was either suicidal or blessed. The only one who spoke to him was Sergeant Cole Vance, a scarred veteran with eyes like burnt steel. I saw the feed, Vance said one night as they checked their weapons. You made a general beg. I've been waiting years to see that. Reese smiled faintly. Didn't feel like victory. Vance snorted. Out here, victory's just surviving another sunrise. On the 10th night, the storm intensified. The sky boiled with violet fire. At 0300, alarms screamed across the compound, deep, animal sounds that rattled the walls. Breach detected. Rift perimeter compromised. Korvac's voice crackled through the combs, all units, engage defense protocol. Cadet Reese, Recon 7, report to the North Trench immediately. Reese grabbed his rifle and sprinted into the chaos. Lightning turned the landscape into a strobe of shadows. The rift glowed like an open wound, spewing molten glass and fragments of alien machinery. Then they emerged. Tall, insectoid forms, six-limbed, armored in obsidian plates that shimmered with static. The Woken. Their eyes burned white. Their movements were fast, too fast for anything organic. Reese dubbed behind a barricade as plasma bolts cut through the storm. The Dominion soldiers fought with rhythmic precision, their energy lances slashing arcs of light. Humans fired in bursts, disciplined chaos. The air filled with the smell of ozone and scorched metal. Flank left. Korvac's command roared over the comms. They're breaching Sector 4. Reese and Vance moved through the smoke, leapfrogging between cover. A woken creature lunged from the haze, its claws snapping like glass blades. Reese dropped it with 2 bursts to the thorax, molten sparks spattering across his armor. Nice shooting, Vance shouted, then his voice cut off. The sergeant collapsed, impaled by a shard of debris. Reese grabbed him, but the blood was already pooling. Stay with me, Cole. Vance's eyes fluttered once. Then he was gone. The world narrowed. Reese turned, rage blinding everything. He charged forward through the smoke, past the line, straight into the rift. Reese! Fall back! Korvac bellowed through the calm. But Reese didn't hear him. He fired until the rifle overheated. The Woken surged toward him, shadows and lightning, when a massive shape crashed down beside him, Korvac himself, swinging a plasma halberd that cleaved through 3 creatures at once. You are reckless, human, the general roared. You seek death? Reese gritted his teeth, reloading. You said courage earns respect. Let's see if it works both ways. Korvac paused, just for a heartbeat, and then bared his jagged teeth. Very well. They fought side by side, 2 soldiers who days ago had been enemies. Reese's shots were precise, covering the general's blind spots. Korvac's strikes were brutal and exact, his movements an alien ballet of destruction. Together, they pushed the enemy back, step by step, until the rift's edge trembled beneath them. Then the ground split open. A new form rose from below, taller than the rest, surrounded by energy arcs. The creature's voice wasn't sound, it was vibration, shaking their bones. Intruders, cease. Reese staggered, his ears bleeding. Korvac fell to one knee, his armor sparking. The creature lifted an arm, and the storm seemed to obey it. Lightning converged overhead. Reese saw the blast coming. Korvac didn't. Instinct took over. Reese shoved the alien aside and fired his rifle straight into the creature's chest point blank. The energy bolt hit something vital. The creature convulsed, shrieking without sound, and exploded in a flash of white light. When Reese came to, everything was silent. Ash fell like snow. The rift glowed faintly, receding. The Woken were gone. Korvac loomed over him, armor scorched, one arm sparking and useless. You saved me, he said quietly. Reese groaned. Guess we're even. The alien stared at him for a long moment. Then he lowered himself to one knee, a gesture so foreign, so unthinkable for a Dominion officer that even Reese thought he was hallucinating. No, Korvac said. We are not even. We are allied. He extended a massive clawed hand. Reese hesitated, then took it. The grip was firm, respectful. Something shifted in that handshake. Not just between them, but between their species. Weeks later, Outpost Erebus stabilized. The Woken attacks ceased. The rift went dormant. The official reports credited General Korvac then and Cadet Daniel Reese with halting the anomaly breach and preserving the outpost. What they didn't mention was what everyone whispered afterward, that a human had saved a Dominion general's life after once making him beg for it. On the day of Reese's departure, Korvac met him at the hangar bay. His armor was polished again, his posture regal. Yet there was something almost human in his tone when he spoke. You defied me once, he said. Then you saved me. I owe you a debt. Reese shook his head. Call it even, sir. The alien's eyes glimmered faintly. I will call it honor. He handed Reese a small object, a Dominion sigil, carved from black metal. Carry this. Among my kind, it means respected foe turned brother. Few ever receive it. Reese accepted it, feeling the weight of it against his palm. Thank you, General. Korvac's mandibles flexed, almost a smile. You humans have much to learn. But today, you taught us something too. What's that? That even the smallest spark can humble the storm. The transport lifted off, engines roaring through the ash-filled air. Reese watched the crater shrink below, a scar on a dying world, but one that had seen something new born in its depths. He didn't know what awaited him back in the corp: promotion, punishment, or exile. But for the first time, none of it mattered. He had seen the truth of war. It wasn't about species or pride, but the fragile, furious will to stand when everything else fell. As the shuttle breached the clouds, lightning arced across the horizon one last time, not as a warning, but as a salute. And somewhere in the black below, an alien general stood watching, his voice carried by the wind. 3 seconds made me beg. But one man made me believe.